Hello everyone, welcome back to NMIMS podcast. I am Isha Chandravanshi and I'll be your host for today. Today, we have the honor of welcoming Mr. Gaurish Wagh on the NMIMS podcast. With a wealth of experience spanning over 23 years, he's a seasoned professional in talent development, organizational dynamics and leadership. And currently he is at the helm as the Global Talent and Leadership Development Lead at Credit Suisse. Is that right, sir? Sir, please, your permission to get this journey of question and answer started. So, you are a storyteller. Could you shed light on the importance of being a storyteller for people seeking a professional career in HR and development, and even every other individual in general?
Well, if you look at storytelling, not necessarily particular in HR, stories have been a part of our lives right from growing up days. We've heard stories right from things like the turtle or the tortoise and the hare, the thirsty crow, Red Riding Hood, and a lot of so many stories. Chacha Chaudhary. So everyone has their own stories to tell. Now, one thing that really is common about storytelling is that it really connects with people. It helps you to relate with things that you want to convey. As I say, when you tell a story, it's not about what you want to say, but it's more about what you want people to hear. And if you look at it, we are surrounded by stories, be it in HR or not. Things like, any kind of advertisement is a story that you want to. We love movies in India. If you look at it, we are surrounded with movies from Bollywood. It's now converted to web series and all of that. But from an HR specifically, it says human resources. So there's a human part in it. And with human, some of the things that we need to understand that there are emotions and there are feelings. So one way to be an effective storyteller is to make a story relatable. Just like we won't forget the other stories that have been told by our nani or by our granny from the childhood days, to the stories that we've heard in the school, to the movies that we've watched and grown up with. Think about this, right? So if you think about a popular biscuit, still, for example, glucose biscuit is so popular. Lifebuoy, the soap is so popular. When you say photocopying, you actually say Xerox. Well, we know that Xerox is the name of a company, not actually photocopying. So stories really, get you hooked. And so, specifically if you are in the field of human resources or in any other field, if you can build that skill of telling stories effectively, if you can relate with people effectively, that goes a long way. And the other thing that I should say is that you need to also understand who are you telling the story to. So please consider your audience. We have different kind of learners. You've got visual learners. Most of us are visual learners. There are audio and there are kinesthetic. So these are a few points that I would say are important if you want to be a storyteller. And there's a lot more that goes along with it.
So story helps us to remember it.
Yes.
And
it's a hook. It's a hook that keeps you hooked on. And once you're hooked onto it, that's when you are. That's when curiosity generates, and you want to listen more. And a story needs to invoke emotions. The right emotions are important, and needs to deliver the right message.
So, moving on to the next question, the current workforce comprises of Gen Z, millennials, and the older generations as well. What is in your experience, what are the differences in working style in each of them?
Well, it's interesting that we're talking about Gen Zs or let's say for example millennials. It's not new actually. If you think about it, generation gap or generations have been there from before. For example, I belong to the Gen X. So as a Gen X, I have different experiences growing up in my working. When I started working to now, and I know that I used to have questions. I should question status quo when I was growing up. As to and my father used to not like it, and I used to be in a way scared of my father, mainly due to the respect that I had, but also because of the knowledge and the experience that he had. So that was my experience. But every generation is different, and the reason why I said that is because my generation, the Gen X, is where we did not really have technology at hand. So we were not technology pioneers. We saw technology coming up to us much later. So the evolution of availability of information only happened later on. The Gen Ys or the millennials born 1980 or after, let's say between 1980 and 1995, are the ones who saw technology really revolutionizing. So, and the Gen Zs, actually, people born after 1995, 96, they grew up with the technology. So the millennials are the technology pioneers, which means you really understand. So there are the way that I would, when I talk with millennials, and it's a range of millennials, right? 1980 to 1995. So the earliest millennials are almost 40, and the youngest millennials are 25, 26. So there's an overlap between millennials and Gen Zs as well. So it depends on who are you talking with. So we need to understand that when you say generation and Gen Z and Gen Ys, there's a huge number of people with different age groups and different life experiences, and that's really crucial. And hence the way of working, the way of thinking has completely changed. There are some stereotypes, by the way, that I like to call out. For example, it says, it's as per research, it says that millennials are more, so money is not the most important driving factor, but the quality of life is. Things like being inclusive is more important. Versus, I've heard that Gen Zs, as per research, again, I'm not Gen Zs, but I've heard as per research, that Gen Zs are more focused on, money, on being more successful. And in my conversations with a few professors from the academies, from different colleges, I often get to hear that when I'm lecturing or when I'm doing a workshop, I've been told that, okay, don't focus so much on the concepts, because we covered that in the class. Focus on how can they become successful in life. The same conversation is different when I talk with millennials. Now, in my previous organizations, in my teams, I've dealt a lot with millennials. And at that time, the more focus is on, is my idea, is my input acknowledged, appreciated or not? Am I feeling more inclusive? Do you want to be more democratic as a leader, or do you want to be more autocratic? So a democratic form of leadership worked well with millennials. It may work differently for Gen Zs. So these are a few examples.
So we have yet to tap into the way of handling Gen Zs in the workforce.
Yes, that's a great point, because I think it's an evolution. A fact that we need to understand that right now around 30% of the global workforce are millennials. 30% of the global working workforce. It's said that in the next 5 to 7 years, that number will go above 50%. And now Gen Zs will also be a part of that 50%, 50-55%. Which means the global workforce eventually will have, you like it or not, majority of the people as Gen Zs and or millennials. And that means that it needs to be an evolution. So organizations, leaders, hiring managers, consultancies, all need to be aware that understanding Gen Zs, working with that mindset is important. While perhaps they have been fairly good enough in understanding millennials, and also it was a lot relatable because Gen X, Gen Ys, there's an overlap again. Like I said, the gap is so high, it was relatable. For example, the reaction to the pandemic that we just passed by has been different for each of these generations.
Definitely, sir.
And that's one such example.
Since you mentioned your childhood and your father, so could you just shed light on how you chose HR as a career?
They say that there are no accidents, but I think in my case there was. I think maybe it was destiny, it was accident. I never really planned to be in the human resource field. In fact, since I mentioned pandemic, one of the global events that when I passed out of engineering, that was 2000. I was pursuing my post-graduation in advanced computing, so electronics engineering, and then pursued post-graduation in diploma in advanced computing, that's 2001. And in 2001, there was this terrorist attack in the US, which resulted into a catastrophe, and we still talk about it every year. It was a very bad example of a global event, similar to a pandemic. It became a global event and really impacted the IT industry a lot. And so my dreams, in a way, got a little shattered. It was difficult to get jobs. It was difficult to get through as a young software engineer. And software engineering was a very new thing at that time. So were call centers. And call centers paid more, surprisingly. So if I were to get a job when I got a few assignments, I was paid around 3,000 rupees a month as a budding software engineer. As against, I was paid 12,000 rupees a month working in a call center. So it was a no-brainer to move there because I was just not getting a job. And at that time, getting a job was important. So started working in a call center, and 6 months down the line, I got an opportunity to also train, coach the new joiners. And I realized that perhaps I have the penchant of training. I like training maybe. And that's how I started off. And through that, I worked in a startup for some time and then joined this company called Accenture in 2004, is where I think my journey into HR started. That I think I discovered that I like working with people. I like helping people. And as a part of human resources, if I may simply put it across, that human resources are there to only help people.
So that's a great example of how setbacks shouldn't come in way of our dreams.
Yes.
And as you go along, you need to find your path.
Yes.
The initial one you take might not be the correct one. So moving on to the next question. This is a little intense or complicated. So these are two questions combined together. In the current scenario, many young individuals are replacing older in age executives that climbed up the ladder through years of challenges. Do you think skills should be given more importance than years of loyalty? At the same time, many bright young individuals that are skilled aren't being offered senior executive positions despite their excellence due to lack of experience. Could you comment from both these perspectives to better understand the right way forward?
Let's take an example and let me ask you a question now. Let's say one of your loved ones is going to go undergo a surgery, very critical one, life-threatening one.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a hospital,
Mm-hmm.
popular hospital, and this surgery is scheduled, but you don't know who the doctor is. It's an emergency surgery. You go to the hospital and you finally get introduced to a doctor. Now, who would you imagine? How would you imagine should the doctor be looking like in your imagination?
He should be someone I've heard of or know personally. They should have years of experience because it's a surgical process. Yes.
Answered the question already, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
In a way, saying that you have an image in mind. So you have a certain expectation saying the doctor should be experienced, trusted, should have credibility, should be well known. Again, proof of credibility. Someone you can trust. Someone who knows what to do. What if you get to know the doctor has just passed out of college 2 years before and he's really, really skillful. He's excellent. Would you be comfortable?
Yes, sir. Definitely not.
So that's in a way an answer to your question, saying that it is not so much about the generation or the age. It's human nature to trust. And while the example, what I mentioned, is a life and death situation, that's how just our brain works. That, I want, say for example, if you're going to, let's take another example. Let's say you're going to, for a European adventure, right, with your girlfriends. What do you think could be some of the questions in your mom's or your parents' mind?
Safety first.
Yeah.
Of all, yeah.
Safety. Now just you and your girlfriends, and you tell them that I'm gonna go for a nice beach vacation. This is beach time out. We're gonna meet some new people there, we're gonna hang out at the beach, and we're gonna have some great fun, and we're gonna have some rave parties maybe. What would that make your mom think?
A definite no.
No, right? Why not? She trusts you, right? She trusts you or her daughter. Why would she say no to you?
They don't trust the world. They trust me, but
Yeah.
definitely.
Exactly. It's exactly why, for example, my wife has not allowed me to buy a motorbike. She says, I trust you that you can drive really well. I don't trust other drivers. So I would rather, compromise on the thrill, but not compromise on the safety. So that's the other aspect that we need to consider is sometimes it's not about let's take this add on to that same point that I said earlier. What if your mom gets to know that your cousin is coming along with you? Does that help a little bit? Maybe
Yeah,
not 100%.
definitely does.
Gives a little morality. Not morality, little confidence, I meant to say. So if you add that safety angle to it, our mind starts thinking different. So now that we've traveled the world, to answer your question in a short way, skills are absolutely important. Statistically, it's shown that in the current times, only 60% of the skills that you know now would be relevant 5 years from now. And that number could vary, could be 70%, could be 40%. It doesn't have a fixed number. That means that I need to constantly upskill myself. And I know that I need to start trusting the next generation, experienced or not. But that is relative, depends on what field I am in. It will be difficult to trust in life and death situation especially if you're talking about surgery. But can I look at an executive who has an entrepreneurial mindset and who can have a startup? Most startup CEOs or owners are very young. They are Gen Ys. And Gen Ys and those people also have higher senior leaders from outside who are much senior than them. So see a younger CEO, 26, 27 years of age, can hire or a younger MD, let's call him an MD or her an MD, and she or he is hiring a experienced CEO who's maybe is 45, 46. So how does that work? And that's because the ownership or the company is owned by this person, but at the same time you need experience to look at solving some of the things, taking experience-based decisions, analytical abilities. All of that is important. So it's a mix of both. Jack Ma, who's one of the he's one of the entrepreneurs, said that I make sure that I hire people who are smarter than me. He's not insecure. He knows what he's doing. So it's not just about the skill and the experience, but it's also about what exactly are we talking about? Are you talking about startups? Are you talking about what field? And the second point is, what exactly are you trying to solve? So if you get these two answers, if you ask these two questions, you perhaps will be able to solve this problem.
So what I think I would like to add on that for startups it's easier to take risks in the start, and for well-established companies it's not so much possible. So even well-established companies can come up with a unit where they hire young risk-taking individuals here, and for stability experience does matter a little.
True. And if you look at it, any kind of in today's world, the reason why I say today's world is because the world is changing so rapidly. If you look at generative AI, we are talking about generative AI. OpenAI has been there for a little over 12 months, and we don't know what is the shelf life of generative AI, and we don't know what's going to come next. That means that adaptability is really crucial. So even if you're in established organizations, and we've seen in the recent past, so many well-established organizations have crumbled. Then when we say experience, how does it matter that we ask ourselves if that experience is not there to save the company from dying? Look at the 2008 meltdown that we had, the financial global meltdown. So many experienced companies just shut down, and you continue seeing that. So experience alone is not important. You need to look at taking risks. More importantly, if you can anticipate risks and have a mitigation plan for that, it's easier said than done. And it's just a matter of saying that can go a long way. And that's what startups are doing. They are ready to take risks, which is a brilliant thing. If you look at it in India, there are a little over 7 million gig workers. So is that the future? Do you really want a full-time job? If you can take up gigs, and if that's paying a little more than your bread and butter for the day, then maybe that is the way of life ahead.
Definitely. So it's a fast-changing environment these years.
It is.
Everything is changing. So for individual aspiring to leadership roles, what advice would you give them in terms of professional development and skills?
I think if you look at leadership, it's a journey. The important thing is that you need to be first you need to consider people that are really inspiring. Why do you want to be a leader? There was a study some time back which was done with millennials, and it was around 5,000 odd people. This is like good 4-5 years back. And they asked them saying that, how many of you want to be leaders? Surprisingly, only 22% said that I want to be a leader. That itself is a question. The first question is, do you really see yourself becoming a leader? And if yes, who do you want to be like? Those are the first two questions that I would ask. And then to become a leader, the two things that you need, I feel, like one is that you need to look at building your communication skills. And by that I don't mean the language, necessarily language, but the ability to network, to build relationships. The second point is how can you look at building support systems. So as you start off your journey and you look at in the next 5 years, 10 years or so, you want to look at becoming a leader and or rather pursuing your leadership journey. Do you have mentors in your life? Do you have a coach? Do you have a coach? Do you have a mentor? Because a mentor and a coach, mentor and a coach are two different roles. Each of them will help you to think clearly, to ask yourself questions, to reflect on your mistakes, and to learn from others, learn from the environment. A support system. So if you start working, I would advise that every person starting off, like when you start working, for example, in an organization, reach out to people proactively. That's what I mean by communication. Don't wait for people to come to you. Don't wait that someone will tell you that you're really good and we want to promote you and all of that. Reach out to people, build your network, build relationships, invest in people. That's really important. And number two is look at building a support system. Because in times of adversities, you need someone to hold your hand. You need someone to help you and to guide you. So people with visibility, people with experience are important to have in your life as coaches and as mentors. I'm saying this emotionally. So it's not about dealing with your emotions only, but rather if someone can give you a neutral view about what's going on, where have you been, and where you want to go, that can go a long way in help you becoming a leader. Because if you look at a leader, someone who takes decisions, someone who solves problems, someone who works with people effectively, someone who can influence people well, and so on and so forth. So these are the skills that are associated with becoming a leader. But it's the support system, the communication and support system that you build over a period of time which will help you become a leader.
So I'm going to ask a personal question. If I were to step into this, I were to seek a mentor right now, what would be the groundwork that I have to do, like step by step? How should I approach searching for a mentor?
Searching a mentor?
Yeah.
I think a mentor could be someone who has. So a mentor is someone who has done that before, has done that really well. So for example, let's say if you want to become excellent at, let's say, podcasting, so you're doing a podcast, like a mentor could be someone who's an expert podcaster, because then it will be more relatable for you. The role of the mentor at that time will be to ask you questions, to make you think differently, so that you have your own style and everything else. But at the same time, can help you build onto that skill or talent that you have and becoming a good performer. That's how you select a mentor. It doesn't have to be an excellent podcaster, but someone who can help you think about that profession or that particular bit, and then help you to become really good at it. That's a mentor over a period of time. And the way that you go about that process is that you first write down what is it that you really want to do. You need to have clarity in what you want to achieve. A mentor can also help you get clarity in what you want to achieve, define your problem statement or your goals better. That's how you choose a mentor. But just to add on to that, a coach is someone who's slightly different. A coach is someone who doesn't have to be an expert in that field. So a coach is someone, according to me, that helps you think clearly. If you can think clearly and think big picture, not the short term, but for the long term, then a coach will help you reflect, to help you associate with your emotions, with your strengths, with your weaknesses, with the threats that lie around you, help you to identify even the blind side. And the way that the coach will do that is ask you questions, probe, recommend, but not advise. So that's how it is. And the other thing, the last thing that I would want to say that is common between a mentor and a coach, that a mentor will not try and fix things for you, will not try and rescue you from situations, but rather enable you, empower you to solve it for yourself.
It's beautifully said, sir. Sir, a political question is that with the growing Indian population, what would be the hiring scenario? What is the hiring scenario right now, and what would it be like in the coming future?
It's an evolution. We've seen two different phases last year. People targeted as the Great Resignation, and now the great layoff and whatnot. I think these are phenomena which will continue to happen. Hiring has got different effects. It is affected by financial situation, the global financial situation. It's impacted by inflation and things. So again, it's a part of finance, I would say. Also impacted by environments, global events that's going on. It is directly connected with stock market. It's hard to understand right now, but these are a few things that we need to consider. So how would the situation be? It will be, first of all, it will be different in different industries. It will be different at different career levels. Will I want to hire Gen Zs? Yes. The reason why is because I'm looking at hiring skilled people, which is more available right now at a low cost, which is easily possible with Gen Zs, and I want to hire them. So will this be an issue at a lower level? No. This could be an issue at a higher level because I need to look at the cost then matters a lot. If I'm hiring a senior executive, unless I have a very proper, if I have a defined case study, it will be difficult for me to hire senior leaders right now. But as the gurus and the pandits, whoever they are, they say that this is not going to last forever. So it's cyclic. So the prediction is that the Great Depression, the current Great Depression, perhaps will ease out in the next quarter, March, April. The first quarter is Jan, Feb, March. That's what.
So another perspective that we have AI right now, and small tasks like writing captions or making posts or designing, these are all being done by AI. Again, with the rising population, young individuals, especially engineers, we're here to be hired, but the ground level work is all being done by AI. Mm-hmm. So how do we go about it? Upskilling is the only way?
No, I think what he made is a good point. And though AI is new, it is not exactly very new. And this evolution is been happening since the last 20, 30 years. So we said that when computers came in, that computers would replace humans. It didn't happen. Now we say that AI is coming in and AI is going to replace humans. I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to help in building efficiencies. It's going to help in process improvements, which is what we need. What that means is that, as I say, that when one job finishes, a new job starts. So if you look at the last 5 years, so many jobs that never existed 10 years before are now there. Things like influencers, jobs like influencers were never there before. There was nothing such as a hacker. Now you have ethical hackers. There's a certification on becoming an ethical hacker. I don't think that was there 10 or 15 years before. So while old jobs go away, new jobs will come in. And that means that the quality of the work that you do is going to be faster, better, and cheaper. So, for example, if you look at the talent acquisition team who's spending hours and hours and hours reading, scanning through the resumes, if that can be done by AI to a certain extent, by identifying keywords, that algorithm will pick up things, now it becomes easy for them to parse CVs. That means that doesn't mean that the role is irrelevant. Now that role has become more efficient. So the turnaround time, which used to be maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks to pass through CVs and then share it with the hiring manager, can be reduced to days now. And that's a different lens that we need to really put on.
So ending with this one last question, How do you think AI will help HR? Is there any application that you know of that is currently happening?
Quite a few. So I mentioned one in talent acquisition. There are a lot of applications that are available. I want to point out one, which is a company called Emotions, starts with an A. And I like to quote this is because it has a little advanced AI, which is almost human-like. And we are all in a VUCA world, as I say. It's volatile, it's complex, ambiguous, uncertain. VUCA means that. And in that process, things like employees' mental well-being has been a challenge. If you're going through a merger and acquisition, there's so many uncertainties, with so many changes, and not everyone is all right talking with a human being. So, for example, if I ask you that if you're going through a depression, what are the chances that you will reach out to a psychiatrist or maybe take professional help?
Very low.
Right, very low. Why is that? Why is that low?
It's hard to trust a human being.
But you can trust a artificial intelligence.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So this tool, Emotions, has been designed for exactly this purpose. It's an advanced AI, which means it actually empathizes with you. So can you think about a bot that that you use on a regular basis. Let's say when you order food or when you are, I don't know, looking at a holiday, something.
Siri and Apple.
Siri is one such advanced. Maybe you can say semi-advanced advanced. If you use Zomato, Swiggy, you have chats there. There are chatbots available. But chatbots only can do so much. And then they say, I'm going to hand it over to one of the support executives. But Emotions does something different. It has, because it's advanced, what it does is you can reach out and have a conversation, a human-like conversation, if not exactly human. In fact, I was talking recently with someone over the phone, and the voice sounded almost robotic. And one of the questions deep down, after 5-6 questions, was, do you think you're talking to a human or a machine? And I had to pause for a second and say, human. Actually, you don't know what I'm talking with. So, in human resources, you can use it for multiple purposes. Talent acquisition is very important for most businesses because getting the right talent is important. And one of the challenges in talent acquisition is to look at identifying from a pool of thousands and thousands of resumes which are the right people that fit that role. So AI is doing that right now. Passing CV is one such example. Also, if you look at development, there are digital learning platforms. There is something called as a digital learning engine, or rather a learning experience engine, which is AI based, ML based. What they do is they have got algorithms. So, for example, let's say Netflix has also an algorithm which tracks what content you watch, and it throws the content that you watch that you have more likes in it. You keep on watching Netflix. What will happen if Netflix throws content that you don't like to watch? Chances are you'll stop watching Netflix. So the learning experience engines or the digital learning platforms do the exact same thing. They track what content you're looking for, your learning habits, how often do you watch, what day in a week do you want to learn. It captures so many different elements. It's got things like gamification, simulations, it uses AR, VR quite a lot, and it throws content to you specifically that will help you to be successful in the work that you do. So, for example, if you have an upcoming presentation, these tools will throw content which will help you to prepare for the presentation. You say storytelling. If I'm going to be someone who's going to, an upcoming event when I have to tell a story, this digital learning platform will throw content that says, how do you become an effective storyteller? So that's another example. So talent acquisition, development, then talent management. We use chatbots for handling employee queries, which are much advanced. It helps reduce the pressure on the HR executives who have to reply to thousands of queries, especially in larger organizations. So these are a few examples.
So we can keep talking about these issues, opportunities. So we'll be ending our podcast here today. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. And I had a really fun time talking to you. We'll continue this conversation after the podcast, I hope. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you back on the next podcast of NMIMS Indore.
Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.